everybody to another training video, and today we're going to be talking about the residential purchase agreement. So who does this apply to? This is going to be applying to our buyer. So once we sit down, once we get through that pre-approval process, when we go to make an offer, this is going to be our official purchase agreement that we'll be making our offer on. So you can see this top section mostly here. We're just talking about date, who's going to be the buyer, the property. We'll go ahead and put in the address, the parcel number. We'll take care of all that for you. Obviously, this section right here where we'll put the X, that's going to be our most important. That's going to be our total purchase price. And as we go through this, there's going to be a couple components that make up the purchase price. So once we establish what it's going to be, we're always going to have an earnest money deposit. So as we come down here, we're going to go ahead and fill out that. Then it'll give us a couple of options here. Here's where we're going to decide is that, are we going to be qualifying for a new loan that you can see right here? Or are you going to be qualifying to assume the loan that they have? So if you are doing one of these options, for this example, let's just say we're doing a conventional loan, we're going to go ahead and check that box. We're also going to go ahead and put the amount there. And then what will happen is that based with the earnest money amount, the loan amount, then there's going to be the rest of our down payment, which we're going to go ahead and fill in right here of the balance of the purchase payment. All three of those items are going to add up to our total purchase price, which we always want to make sure all of these match up and add up to this, and that our section right here in G for total purchase price match our total purchase price from above. So as we scroll through this, just one of the things, every page is going to need a buyer's name and initials, but we'll get all that handled through our DocuSign or Authenta signature program so that you guys won't have to worry about that. So as we get into the page 2, this is where we start to see some of our contingencies come into play. So first off, we're going to make sure that we put how many days before we have to complete the new loan application. That way we can go ahead and get that to the sellers. They know that we're already on top of that. Now, in some cases, your loan application may already be done. In this case, we'll just go ahead and fill this in as done, as we no longer need to wait a day, 2 or 3 to get that done. For our cash purchases, we'll go ahead and put not applicable here. That way we don't have any blank spots on our contract, but they know that it is not applicable to this sale. So with our appraisals, again, we're going to give ourselves our time limit here. We'll go ahead and submit that. Again, with cash purchases, we may be waiving that appraisal, but if we're not waiving that appraisal, this is where we're going to go ahead and put that in. So next up will be our loan contingency, giving us enough time to make sure that this deal can get funded. Section D with our cash purchase here, we'll go ahead and let them know how many business days after acceptance. We'll go ahead and give them evidence, maybe from a lending institution, something to really support our proof of funds, which you'll commonly be heard as the POF. And we'll be submitting the basic POF, proof of funds, in the initial offering so that they have a copy of that. So again, right here, this was a pretty big section. Does this agreement need to have a contingent upon a sale addendum? So what this means is that if you do not need to sell your property that you're currently in, or sell a property that you own to buy this, then you're fine. We're going to go ahead and take option A. But if you do have to sell the property that you're in, or is property in general to buy this property, we're going to have to go ahead and mark that box B, and then we'll also be completing the contingent upon sale addendum, which we'll talk about in another video. So as we move down this, we have any type of fixtures and personal property that we've seen in the property that we really want to make sure that are noted. Anything that's even remotely close to not sure if they're leaving or not, that's what we're going to want to note right in this section. Again, buyer's name, initials, all that's going to be at every page, but you'll be able to click through our e-signature programs. All right, we're getting into the escrow part. So here's where we're going to label, put in the title company that we would like to be open title with during this transaction. We're also going to come down here and put the escrow officer's name so that when we do go ahead and open escrow, everybody's on the same page on who's going to be handling that. Close of escrow. We're going to go ahead and put in our date here. It could be, cash purchase. It could be anywhere from a week, 10 days, if we can get title to clear it that fast. It could be 30, 45, 60 days, depending on what's going on with the listing. Typically, we're going to probably see this somewhere around the 30-day mark. Instances where it may go over could be maybe a probate or a deed upon death where we have to let the legal course take place. So we may not be able to close in those 30 days. All right, as we come down here, another big option that we're going to want to make sure that we select is our due diligence. So right here, 99.999% of the time, we are going to go ahead and mark this as is. We do want that buyer's due diligence time period, and that could be anywhere from 7 days to 14 days. And in this period, this is where we're going to get our home inspection zones. We're just going to give maybe another walkthrough or two on the property. Make sure that we've really looked at it, examined it, and we're okay with where everything is at. And if not, we need to make sure that any issues are addressed in the request for repairs. So we're going to go ahead and mark that as yes for is. And then this is right in here where you see that new X. That's where we're going to put how many days we're going to give ourselves now. So this is going to be our first contingency for the most part, major contingency that's going to run out. So this is going to be a major deadline for us to come through the property. All right, during our inspection period, conditioning, obviously the seller has to agree to give us reasonable access to the property to run all of our inspections and make sure everything is on the up and up. Let's see, we'll get into the buyer's right to cancel. Obviously, if we do exercise our option to cancel during the due diligence period in section 7, we're going to have to go ahead and put that in writing and let them know that that is going to be, we're exercising our right in paragraph 7 there. All right, so now when we get into the home inspections part of it, we're going to go through this together. We're going to fill out what inspections that you're going to be doing. So 9 times out of 10, we're going to go ahead and take that home inspection. Depending on what type of loan it is and where you're feeling, we might need that termite inspection, um, roof inspection. Now, septic and septic lid removal, septic pumping, septic inspection. You can see all these here as well as the well inspections. These are only going to be applicable on properties that have these items. If the property that we're purchasing or looking to make an offer on does not have a septic or a well, we're not going to leave them as no, we're not going to do them. We're actually going to classify them as NA is not applicable because they're actually not on the property. So again, fireplace, this might be something we might want to take a look at as well. So these are going to be the inspections that we're going to go ahead and tell them that we're going to be doing. And these inspections will fall upon the financial burden of the buyer here. All right, once we get that inspection back or any of these inspections back, that is when we'll kind of take a look at section F here, which is the buyer's request for repair. And so we'll go ahead and work with you on that based on the inspections that come back, putting together a document of what we're asking the seller to either fix, replace, or potentially just give us a credit for so that we can do it on our own time. Now, moving on to the next section, here's going to be our escrow and appraisal fees. When the buyer is getting an appraisal fee, that's going to fall upon the buyer. Typically in this, our options are going to be either the seller is going to pay for it, the buyer is going to pay for it, or we're going to split it 50-50. Now, again, all these are negotiable items, but you're going to see the real property transfer tax paid majority of the time by the seller, as well as the owner's title policy. The lender's title policy, the appraisal, a majority of the time are going to fall upon the burden of the buyer. All right, we're always going to get a preliminary title report with the escrow company that we opened, and we're going to want to make sure we go that, make sure that there's no liens, make sure that there's nobody that's filed anything on the property. Once we do get this, it's going to be important that we need to get that done, gone through. The sellers actually have 5 days after accepting this to, get it out to us and make sure that everything's on the same page. So as far as our closing fees, this is where we would ask for that. We'll ask, we may be looking for $5,000, $10,000 in closing fees. But again, this is something that's a negotiable, and we'll make it either it's including the closing costs or excludes the normal closing costs that they've got to buy. So this would be something, we're looking for a little extra. Maybe we're looking to buy down the rate. Maybe we're just looking to get a little help on some of the closing costs. So moving on to the home protection plan. If you don't have one or don't have a company that, we'll just go ahead and mark this as TBD, and then what'll be up our option. Do we want to ask for the sellers to buy one? Do you want one? Either way, we can ask for it. So right here, we would say, we will require a home inspection. Then it becomes, is that if we're going to ask the seller to pay for it, or if we're going to go ahead and take care of that on our own. When we get into section 10, paragraph 10 here in the common interest communities, this is when we're going to start getting our HOA docs, who's going to be responsible for getting them. Our transaction coordinator will get everything ordered. Majority of the time, these are going to be paid by the seller to get these into us. They actually have 15 days to get those over to us. And once we get the HOA documents in for review, we have 5 days to review them. So, and in some cases, there are multiple HOAs. So once the one comes in, you got 5 days to review that one. And address any concerns, questions there. And then once the other one comes in, again, you'll be granted 5 days for those. If they both come in on the same day, it's going to be 5 days from when we receive those. All right, as we scroll down and get into the disclosures, the major disclosure we're going to want to see right here is the seller's real property disclosure form. We have another video on that, so if you haven't taken a look at that one, when you get some time, take a look at that one. But basically what this one is going to do is that this is coming from the seller, and they are going to disclose what they are aware of, any issues with the home. So we're always going to want that. Construction defects, well, if they've marked anything in the real property disclosure form, which is the SRPD, they're going to have to go ahead and explain that on that form anyway. So you can ask for it. Some people think it's a little redundant, but sometimes better safe than sorry. All right, and this is another one too that we get a fair amount is that our LBPD disclosure, and that's our lead paint disclosure. And really, it only comes into play if the home was built before 1978. And so if it is, we'll go ahead and get that disclosure and acknowledgement from them. And then if there's a solar panel, any type of solar panel, whether, if it's got in their lease owned, we want to make sure we know and have all the information for that so that you can make an executive decision on moving forward with the solar panels, getting them paid off at closing, taking over a lease, or, reading through that, deciding that this is not something that you even want to take on. So once we get into this walkthrough section, this is where we're going to mark, and it's typically we're going to put within 3 days. We really want to try to set this up so that we're walking through the property and pretty much going straight over to title to sign. And why is that? Well, if we go see this property 2 or 3 days ahead of we close, God forbid something happens before then, or somebody comes back into the property, and if we've already signed off on accepting the condition of the property, it is kind of it's a risk that we got to take. So a lot of times with our companies that we'll go ahead and set this up for the same day or one day at the latest, but that way we can go ahead and go straight from walking through to the signing. If you're not going to be in town for this is something that I'll handle for you. I can go on your behalf. I can FaceTime you in, video conference you in, whatever the case may be, to make sure that you can get a visual inspection and are happy with any repairs that have been made or requested to be made, or just overall making sure that the home was in the similar condition as when we entered into this contract. All right, we get into delivery of possession here. Again, this is one of those majority of the time you're going to see right over here at COE, and that stands for close of escrow. So we are not going to take possession of the home until the escrow is actually being closed and recorded with the title company. In some cases, you might be able to, if negotiated in the contract, maybe take possession a little bit earlier before closing, or a post-possession, something, if that's been worked into the contract. All right, as we move through this a little bit more, some of the bigger things to look at are going to be this, you're going to see some definitions here. So if you have any questions that maybe I haven't answered or you haven't seen, again, you just got a lot of terms, acronyms in here that can help go through some of that for you. All right. When we get in here into our additional terms and addendums. So again, going back to one of the examples we gave earlier, is that if this offer is contingent on you selling your current home or a home, this is where we would note that the contingent upon sale addendum is being attached with this offer so that the agent and the sellers know that that is coming over. So any other addendums that we may have we would list them here and make sure they're included. And then additional terms. So we're going to put in here any type of other terms that we're concerned about that we want to make sure are noted. It could be, again, water feature to stay or something along those terms. It could be related to the escrow or timetables, or maybe if it is with the contingency, is that if it's with a contingent upon sale, is that our due diligence period doesn't start until potentially the contingent upon sale property gets into escrow. So here we can be a little creative. If there's anything you're worried about the contract, this is kind of our last opportunity to put it in and protect ourselves with our verbiage. And again, right through here, all we're really going to go through is just filling out some clerical information, the brokerage information from the buying side, the agent, all this stuff. We're going to go ahead and let them know if, when the offer is good until, And we're going to go ahead and hit our signatures, go ahead and print our name here to make it an official document. And then we'll basically just sit and wait. And we'll sit into that time period during this maybe day 24 to 48 hours. I'll be in touch with the agent, making sure that everything was confirmed, answering any questions they have about our offer. We'll take care of filling this all out, just out of common courtesy for them. Obviously, and really what we're going to select one of three things. And we're going to have the acceptance, the counter, or the rejection. Obviously, with an acceptance, that's very clean. We get this signed, it's accepted. We get everything over to the title company and open escrow. When we do see the counter, it's basically saying the seller's accepted everything in the that you see that we've put together so far, subject to the counter offer that they submit. So typically it's a one-page item, and it may be something as they've changed the close of escrow day. They may have changed the price. They may have changed the due diligence period. They may have asked for you to pay for the home warranty instead of them. So it could be a number of things, but they will be laid out. And once that counteroffer comes over to us, then we'll have the opportunity to now review that counteroffer and either accept that or make a counter to their counter, either identifying what things that we are good with or not good with, and continue that process until we get a full acceptance on both sides. All right, so with that, that really wraps up the residential purchase agreement side. It could be a little bit overwhelming, so please make sure you go back, watch a video a couple times. As always, if you have any questions, concerns, always reach out to me. My number is always listed below, and hopefully this is a clean residential purchase agreement for you, and we get that acceptance box checked. Have a great day.